Nobody saw it coming. The world woke up to chaos, not because of a scandal or a surprise album drop, but because Taylor Swift, the woman who turned her heartbreaks into hymns and her triumphs into anthems, had quietly entered a whole new chapter of her life. She had become a mother. It started with a single photo. No fancy announcement, no press release, no staged magazine cover. Just a simple post on her Instagram. Taylor, dressed in a soft cream sweater, her hair loose and natural, cradling a newborn against her chest. No caption, no explanation. Just a white heart emoji. That was it. Within minutes, the internet broke. Fans screamed in disbelief, journalists scrambled for details, and celebrities flooded her comments with congratulations. Nobody even had time to ask how, because the image itself said everything. Taylor Swift, the woman who had filled stadiums and healed broken souls through lyrics, was now holding the greatest song she'd ever written, her child. Speculation ran wild. Who was the father? When did this happen? How did she keep it a secret in a world where even her Starbucks orders became headlines? But Taylor didn't answer any of it. She didn't need to. Instead, she released another photo hours later, tiny fingers wrapped around hers. The kind of picture that didn't need words. And just like that, Taylor Swift wasn't just a global superstar anymore. She was a mother. A woman who, after decades of giving pieces of herself to the world, had finally found something worth keeping all to herself. Her fans, who grew up with her music, felt like they were witnessing something bigger than a career milestone. This wasn't about record sales or Grammy wins anymore. This was about life, about legacy, about a child who, one day, would realize their mother wasn't just a singer. She was the soundtrack of an entire generation. But the story was only beginning. Because what nobody knew yet was that motherhood wouldn't just change Taylor's life. It would change her music, her choices, and maybe even the course of her entire career. The headlines didn't stop for days. Every major news outlet ran the same story. Taylor Swift is officially a mom. But unlike the scandals and gossip that usually surrounded Hollywood, this news carried a different kind of energy. It wasn't about controversy. It was about wonder. Fans filled social media with posts like, "We grew up with Taylor, and now we get to watch her child grow up too." Others shared how her music had been with them through every season of their lives, and now it felt like she was stepping into the most human season of all. Some even said it felt like a family member had just welcomed a baby. That's how deeply connected people felt to her. But Taylor, as always, did things her own way. Instead of giving the press exclusive interviews, she stayed quiet. She wasn't hiding. She was protecting. She didn't want her child's first days to be tabloid fodder. She wanted them to be sacred. And so, she retreated into a small circle of people she trusted, sharing only rare glimpses of her new world. Behind closed doors, Taylor's life was completely different. The woman who once stayed up late writing lyrics in hotel rooms was now staying up at 3 a.m., rocking a baby to sleep. Her notebooks filled not with heartbreak or revenge anthems, but with soft lines about unconditional love, sleepless nights, and the indescribable feeling of hearing a tiny heartbeat against her own. Music executives were nervous. They wondered if this meant Taylor was stepping away from the spotlight, if the stadium tours and massive rollouts were about to end. But her close friends knew better. Motherhood wasn't dimming her fire, it was reshaping it. She wasn't losing her voice, she was finding a new one. And while the world kept asking questions, who's the father? What's the baby's name? When will she return to music? Taylor gave them silence. She didn't know anyone answers. She was too busy discovering a love deeper than fame, deeper than applause, deeper than anything she had ever written about. What the world didn't realize yet was that Taylor Swift wasn't just living a new chapter. She was about to start writing a new era. An era where every lyric, every song, every performance would carry the weight of her new identity, not just as an artist, but as a mother. And soon, the world would hear the music born from this transformation. At first, the silence was beautiful. Taylor's choice to step back and live quietly with her child gave her fans a sense of peace. But the longer she stayed away from the spotlight, the louder the outside world grew. The tabloids started circling like vultures. Anonymous sources claimed to know who the father was. Some said it was a famous actor she had been linked to years ago. Others insisted it was a secret romance with someone far from Hollywood. The wilder the rumor, the faster it spread. Every blurry paparazzi photo was dissected, every song lyric from her past twisted into supposed clues. Suddenly, the baby wasn't just a child. It became the centerpiece of a media storm. And Taylor hated it. She had built her career by sharing stories through her music, but this was different. This wasn't a song or a metaphor. This was her child. And for the first time in her career, she drew a hard line. She refused interviews. She refused to feed the gossip cycle. She was determined to keep this part of her life untouchable. But even as the noise outside grew, something was happening inside Taylor. Nights of cradling her baby became moments of inspiration. She started writing again, not out of pressure, not out of heartbreak, but out of love. The lyrics were softer, but sharper. The melodies weren't just catchy, they were timeless. Her music wasn't about chasing charts anymore. It was about leaving a legacy her child could grow up to hear. Still, the tension was undeniable. Fans wanted answers. The industry wanted certainty. Her team wanted a plan. But Taylor? She wanted freedom. Freedom to raise her child without the world demanding ownership of every detail. One night, alone at the piano, she realized something. The only way to take control of the story was to tell it in her own words. Not through interviews, not through press releases, but through the only language she had ever truly trusted, her music. And so, she began working in secret. Late-night sessions, whispered melodies, lyrics scribbled between lullabies. She wasn't just writing an album. She was creating a message, not just for the world, but for the little life that had already changed everything. What nobody knew yet was that Taylor Swift was about to release her most personal album ever. And when it dropped, it would silence every rumor, break every record, and remind the world why her voice mattered more than the noise surrounding her. The announcement came without warning. At midnight, Taylor posted a single image, the cover of her new album. The title was simple yet powerful, Lullabies and Legends. The caption read only one line: "For the one who changed everything." The internet went into meltdown. Fans who had been starved of answers suddenly understood. This wasn't just another album rollout. This was a love letter to her child, a message carved into melody and lyrics that would live forever. When the album dropped, it wasn't what anyone expected. There were no pop anthems aimed at chart dominance, no revenge tracks, no carefully calculated singles. Instead, it was raw, honest, soft in places, fierce in others. It was filled with lullabies that doubled as ballads, love songs that didn't come from romance, but from motherhood, and lyrics so personal that listeners swore they could hear the sound of a rocking chair creaking or a baby's laugh faintly woven into the background. Critics called it her boldest move yet. Fans called it her masterpiece. And for the first time, the world stopped asking questions about the father, the secrecy, or the drama. The conversation shifted entirely. This wasn't about gossip anymore. This was about art. Her concerts took on a new life too. When she stepped on stage, the energy was different. She wasn't just performing, she was sharing. And when she sang songs from Lullabies and Legends, the stadiums didn't feel like crowds. They felt like families, every fan singing along as if they were part of something bigger than themselves. And yet, behind the spotlight, Taylor remained fiercely protective. She gave the world the music, but kept her child away from flashing cameras. That balance, the ability to give without losing herself, became her greatest victory. Years later, when her child would finally be old enough to understand, they would listen to that album and realize it wasn't written for the world at all. It was written for them. Every lyric, every note, every pause. It was all a story of a mother's love, disguised as music for millions. Taylor Swift had always been a storyteller. But this time, she wasn't telling the story of love lost or fame gained. She was telling the story of life itself. And in doing so, she reminded the world that the greatest legacy isn't built in headlines or records, it's built in love.